Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Prime Minister Mark Carney held his first press conference with reporters since winning the election earlier this week. It was an opportunity to discuss priorities going forward. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
Mark Carney wasted no time speaking with reporters. He said Canadians made their voices heard with the highest voter turnout seen in the last 30 years, and that Canadians had given him a mandate to make big changes quickly. He said that will require teamwork.
As I stressed on election night, I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in Cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament. Working in real partnership with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples.
Economy, trade, and security are some of his top priorities.
In the coming weeks, I will unveil more of our plans to engage with Canadians as we embark on the biggest transformation of our economy since the end of the Second World War.
He said an immediate priority is to meet with the U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday.
Our focus will be on both immediate trade pressures and the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations. My government will fight to get the best deal for Canada. We will take all the time necessary, but not more, in order to do so.
Border security will also be strengthened with dog teams, drones, and 1,000 more border security officers to fight the traffic of guns and drugs.
We'll strengthen Canadian law enforcement by hiring 1,000 more RCMP officers and giving law enforcement more tools to fight crime. We will toughen the criminal code and bail laws for those threatening the safety of Canadians, including making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, human trafficking, and smuggling.
A new cabinet will be sworn in on May 12th, and Parliament will resume May 26th. According to Carney, King Charles will travel to Canada later this month when he will deliver the throne speech on May 27th. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A Conservative MP-elect from Alberta says he will resign to allow party leader Pierre Poilievre to run in his riding. Damien Couric from the riding of Battle River Crowfoot says his decision will allow for Poilievre to run in an upcoming by-election. Earlier today, Prime Minister Mark Carney said he would hold a by-election as soon as possible if one became open to let the Conservative leader run. Poilievre came up short in winning his riding in Ontario on election night. The death of a man in Skidegate on Haida Gwaii, British Columbia, has created a movement called Justice for Luke. On April 22nd, police say Luke Pearson, who was 32, was intentionally struck by a vehicle in Skidegate and later died of his injuries. 32-year-old Tyson Young is charged with second-degree murder in connection with the incident. Chief and Counsel banished Young's family and some of their friends and tore down their houses, accusing them of dealing drugs. The families left Skidegate under RCMP escort because they were the targets of angry crowds along the way and were denied services such as food and gas. BC Regional Chief Terry Teague is from one of the communities.
Making sure the people that were leaving don't enter their territories, and I think it was a function of safety, but also I think what we're seeing here is the frustration with the opioid crisis, is the frustration that administration and perhaps the First Nations who saw or witnessed or are related to or know somebody that has died from the opioid crisis. I think this is the culmination of a lot of frustration. Our prayers and our thoughts go out to the Luke Pearson's family, also the community of Skidegate and Haida Gwaii.
Meanwhile, members of the Ross River Dene Council in the remote Yukon community held a rally on Thursday in protest of what they say is rampant drug dealing and bootlegging in their community. Organizers say roughly 20 people participated in the protest. They say despite Ross River being a dry community, drug use, alcohol addiction, and bootlegging is harming many who live there. Cynthia Dick is a community member who helped organize the protest. She says the issue is impacting her family and she would ultimately like to see known drug dealers and bootleggers banished.
And we want to have a healthier community. We want our people to be better. And it's sad to see them struggling with addiction. And these people are getting away with it.
A new development in the giant mine remediation project in Yellowknife has surfaced as the Clecho government have entered into a new agreement with the Canadian government. A March 6 press release from the Clecho government says they signed a 10-year economic benefits agreement with Ottawa. Clecho will receive $1.9 million a year until 2035. The funds will be used to train Clecho citizens who wish to work on the remediation project. From its opening in 1948 to its closure in 2004, over 7 million ounces of gold was extracted from the giant mine. When it closed, 237,000 tons of deadly arsenic trioxide remained on site. Co-run by Canada and the Northwest Territories, the remediation project aims to manage the waste responsibly by the year 2038. Preparations are underway for Red Dress Day on Monday. We'll take you to one of those events after the break. Welcome back. Winnipeg's Downtown Community Safety Partnership is expanding at the request of community members. A new team of Indigenous women will focus on strictly serving other Indigenous women in the city centre, utilizing their experiences to connect and support our relatives. Sav Jonza has that story.
Out on the town are members of a new Indigenous women's support team. They are part of Winnipeg's Downtown Community Safety Partnership, a 24/7 non-emergency organization of teams that aim to support and assist people in the city centre. DCSP Executive Director Greg Burnett says this new team is a direct response to community calls for better protection of Indigenous women.
There's an overwhelming need for this.
The Manitoba government is providing more than $350,000 to DCSP for the Indigenous Women's Support Team, which are paid positions. The 8-member team will soon receive a vehicle and specially marked clothing so they are easy to spot.
I think that this is something that all Manitobans can be proud of and can show the commitment of our government to prioritizing the safety of Indigenous women, but also leaning into public safety.
The money comes from the province's $20 million Minawawayag Ekwea strategy to create a web of supports for Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people throughout Manitoba. Families Minister Nahani Fontaine says the team is one of the most unique units across the country, as it is specifically Indigenous women working to support Indigenous women.
Women that they come into contact with can intrinsically trust and know that they can rely on them, and that they also get the issues that they're dealing with. So it's really, really important that we have our people in a good way working alongside folks in the community and with our partners to ensure that we're prioritizing the protections of Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited.
Team members will be able to connect the people they serve with all sorts of resource centers across the city. Many have experiences like MMIWG2S advocacy that will inform their work. Fontaine says those shared histories will help better guide the team's interactions.
That is the consequence of intergenerational trauma. And so, you know, those of us that are on this path in a good way are best positioned to work with our women that are dealing with those myriad of issues.
The Indigenous Women's Support Team will be afoot during the daylight hours to start and expand to evenings as they become more established. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Still in Winnipeg, advocates are gearing up for the National Day of Recognition for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. May 5th is also known as Red Dress Day. And this year, a focus on Tanya Neepanak, who is believed to be in the city-owned landfill since 2012. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
We're going to give them free
300 red shirts with an image of Tanya Neepanak and her 2 children. Marie of Pretty East Van Designs in Vancouver started a GoFundMe to get this project going.
I feel the design really speaks to what's happening right now. Is that she's got these 2 beautiful children who need her. Yes, they're adults now, but they still have trauma.
The shirts will be worn during a walk through downtown Winnipeg on May 5th, National Red Dress Day. As a survivor of human trafficking, she wants to lend her voice to the cause. In the process, sharing her healing journey with other Indigenous women.
I had an experience in my 20s where 2 men almost killed me. And I fought these men and I got away. And I don't know why Creator gave me that strength to live, but I was supposed to die that night. And when I think about Tanya and her last moments, I feel it. I understand what it feels like to know that you're going to die.
This is her second campaign for families in Winnipeg. She also helped with the Search the Landfill movement for Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron. Rebecca Contois, Harris, Myron, and Ashley Shingus were all brutally murdered by a serial killer in 2022. For 2 years, the families fought to get the privately owned Prairie Green landfill searched.
So I did that with Count Morgan, and it seemed to create a lot of support for them.
This past February, after 3 months of searching, Harris and Myron's remains were found. Then, back in March, Winnipeg police also announced the remains of Shingus are believed to be in the city-owned Brady landfill and a search would happen. That same landfill is where they believe Tanya Neepanak's remains are. In 2012, she was announced that she was also a victim of a different serial killer. At the time, WPS only searched for Tanya for a week.
When you think about her in the landfill and they're not going to get her, and then I think about me, like, what if I passed away? They would have never looked for me, nothing.
The province has been in discussions with the Nipanak family about expanding the search to include Tanya. But so far, no dates have been announced as to when that search will begin. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The transfers and the shirts.
An Anishinaabe artist from the Temagami First Nation in Ontario will receive recognition for her contribution in the performing arts. Sandra Laronde is a recipient of the 2025 Lifetime Artistic Achievement Award in Dance. Here's Annette Francis with her story.
Over a year ago, Sandra Laronde received a surprising call from the Governor General's office.
I didn't know that my name was put forward for the Governor General Performing Arts Award. I didn't know until I got the call that somebody had nominated me. And so that was really exciting. I've known for a year. And they said to me, you know, please, it's confidential, do not tell anyone. And so a year passes and they asked me, you know, how was it? I said, I only told my mother. And they said, you only told your mother and no one else?
Laronde is a trailblazer. She founded Red Sky Performance 25 years ago. Since that time, it has brought Indigenous dance, music, and theater to the world.
We just came back from Europe, just came back from Germany and Austria, and we toured there before, where we did a 5-week European tour a few years ago, but it was nice to be back with a different show just recently.
Laronde grew up in Temagami First Nation, where sports was always her passion. But after university, dance and theater became her focus. She says those experiences growing up influenced the creation of everything she does at Red Sky. Laronde has seen a lot of change over the past 25 years.
When I started the company 25 years ago, it was much more difficult. A lot has happened in 25 years. When I first started Red Sky, I could count on one hand how many times I saw anything on a main stage. And then fast forward now, it's different time, you know. And working with media at the beginning was challenging because they would ask often very stereotypical questions. And you'd have to find a really creative way of turning the question around and then answering a better question.
Laronde has also written a children's book called She Holds Up the Stars. She says a live stage production of it is in the works.
Because I don't want to do a simple adaptation of the book, because I want to bring in, obviously, music, orchestral music, and life-size puppetry. So the horse is actually going to be a life-size horse, but it's puppet with 3 people moving this creature, so it looks like a horse on stage. And I'm now adapting it, and it's a different style of writing a play, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm in the throes of it right now. I love it, but
Laronde will be presented with her award in Ottawa at Rideau Hall next month. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Toronto.
And a big congrats. A new episode of APTN Investigates premieres tomorrow night. We'll speak with the reporter behind the documentary after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And today's photo comes from Shania Murdoch, who took in the beautiful sounds of Canadian guitarist Jesse Cook last week at this his concert in Winnipeg. Thanks, Shania. If you want to be featured as our photo of the day, you can email your submissions to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, showers and 22 in Fredericton, 19 with rain in Halifax, +1 with flurries in Kuujjuaq, 0 with flurries in Nain, 15 with showers in Montreal, rain, and 9 in Chibougamau, 10 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy, and 12 in North Bay, 16 in Thunder Bay, 17 with rain in Sioux Lookout, 9 in Thompson and God's Lake, 15 in the Pas, 24 in Winnipeg, Brandon, and Dauphin. Sunny and 26 in Regina, 29 under sunny skies in North Battleford, 28 and sunny in Meadow Lake and Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, cloudy and 21 in High Level and Fort Chipewyan. Sun's out and 30 in Medicine Hat, 28 under sunny skies in Lethbridge. 13 with showers in Vancouver, rain, and 19 in Kamloops. 12 in Prince George, 9 in Dease Lake. -2 with flurries in Old Crow, 10 above in Whitehorse. 8 and cloud in Yellowknife, 4 above in Norman Wells. -8 in Sax Harbor, 0 in Nunavik. -10 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove. -7 in Resolute, 13 below with snow in Igloolik. It is Friday, the first Friday of May and first Friday of our new Liberal government. And that means that at 6:30 Eastern Time, Nouvelle Nationale will probably be including some election coverage in French. Host Kim Sullivan joins us now. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Dennis. You are absolutely right. We spoke with 2 Quebec Indigenous elected MPs, but it's not all about politics. We tackle forestry and Quebec's introduction of the new Bill 97, a change of name for one of Quebec's Indigenous communities, and we did interview a lawyer specialized in Indigenous law about our rights and how we can get them heard more. So join us tonight. It's happening at 6:30 Eastern.
Thanks, Kim. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. APTN Investigates returns this week with an all-new episode. Journalist Christopher Reed looks into accusations of racism and bullying within Winnipeg City and Manitoba governments. With more on how non-disclosure agreements are preventing whistleblowers from going public with allegations of abuse, Christopher joins us now in studio. Christopher, thanks for being with us. What can you tell us about NDAs and how they're used in the workplace?
Well, non-disclosure agreements became particularly popular as Silicon Valley tech companies wanted a way to protect their intellectual property. But increasingly, we've seen NDAs being used in situations where people have alleged mistreatment at work, being used to silence those people. According to stats being collected, a relatively high number of women and brown people, black people as well, Indigenous folk tend to get asked to sign NDAs. And so you see situations wherein someone is involved in some kind of unpleasant situation at work. Maybe they're subject to racist remarks from coworkers, maybe they're being sexually harassed or worse. So then HR investigates and they offer the alleged victim a compensation package. The victim's job might be terminated. That's a fairly common scenario in this type of situation. And the victim is asked to sign a contract promising to remain silent about everything, as in you can't tell your psychiatrist, your wife, your priest, your elder, you can't tell anyone ever what happened. You may be compelled by a court or a regulatory body to talk, but in many cases those would be the only exceptions. And if you talk, you could be prosecuted.
Wow. Well, you speak with 2 men who were asked to sign NDAs after alleging mistreatment at work. What happened to them?
Well, one of them is Marcel Williamson, a First Nations man who worked in IT support for the Manitoba government. He complained about anti-Indigenous things he alleges were said to him at work. He also filed police reports about 2 alleged assaults that were ultimately unprovable. But the end result was that he was terminated, offered compensation in the tens of thousands of dollars, and asked to sign an NDA. And he refused the NDA and hasn't received any money. Our other main interview is Dennis Smith. He's a Métis man who works for the city of Winnipeg, still has his job, needs his job. He was subject to workplace bullying and racism that was largely confirmed by a third-party investigation. And so his union, QP 500, negotiated a deal where he'd lose his job, sign an NDA, and get $20,000. And he wasn't very happy with that deal or his union, and he refused to sign. And he still has his job. Both of these men are looking for better resolutions, and they don't want to sign NDAs.
You also have Julie McFarlane, an ex-law professor who's got NDAs in her sights. What's she trying to do about this?
Well, McFarlane's written a book that details her own personal NDA fight against the Church of England, and she co-runs a campaign called Can't Buy My Silence. She's currently, she has the ear of the Manitoba government, and she's encouraging them to enact legislation that would ban or restrict heavily the use of NDAs to silence victims of harassment or sexual abuse. And McFarlane advocated for similar legislation in PEI. That's already in place. So she has a website, which is a platform for people like Marcel Williamson to go public with their stories. And she knows the NDA legal landscape inside and out, and she can offer a wealth of expertise to people caught in their own NDA nightmare.
Well, interesting and troubling stuff. Christopher, appreciate you speaking with us about it.
My pleasure.
And you can catch APTN Investigates Unmuted, airing tomorrow night on APTN at 6:30 Eastern Time. It's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime, though, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Stick around. Kim is up next with your French language news. Have a great night.